you know, the word emotion kind of distorts everything, because like when you take the letter E and you equate that to the word feelings, you kind of mess up the motion of things. So remove the E and keep moving. That's what you do with it.
Spitting that E to the IMP. Keep spitting that E to the IMP. Keep spitting that E to the IMP. Ain't nothing but pimpin' these days. Keep spitting that E to the IMP. Keep spitting that E to the
Got my face on a bunch of wanted papers. Rolled in town like a desperado. Searching for the gold like El Dorado. Burning money on Jameson bottles. Gonna get rich, come hella hot water. Ride for my gang all the way to hangman. Spirits in the sky, know that I'm never changing. I'm like a Charles Russell painting, I'll die in the West.
Here to ground mode. Left MSP, select the page that you don't need. Hit the button twice. Select pad. Make sure your left hard point power.
There you go. Thanks, Antoine. Welcome back to another episode of Elevated Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. I am the Uncle Junior, and today's on the panel we have Orville Ingram, Coach Dwayne Dwyer, Chris from across the table, Antoine, Christopher, Victor, Viziant, and none other than brand new Similac still smelling on his breath, Dorian Paige. The reason why I got him is because he just cracked on us with an old joke right before we went. I had to get him back. Hey, but before we get started, man, I want to take a couple minutes to thank everybody in the chat, everybody who's watching today. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Shout out to all you unks, nephews, and other people out there who support the show and the channel. Also to the servicemen, we salute you and we appreciate you for everything that you do. While you're here, feel free to hit the chat button. Hit the like button. Join the chat, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you can be notified as soon as other videos drop. We're going to get started today. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Solid.
I'm well.
It's been a long day.
I'm good.
Awesome. Rolling. I'm down the street. Welcome to the show.
Yep. I'm doing good.
Yes, sir. Hey, today, as you see it, we have a special guest on the show. His name is Dorian Paige. And Dorian is from a different generation. He's a little bit younger than us. He's a 19-year-old entrepreneur. He's going to be a real estate mogul one day. One day, we're going to look back on this. He's going to be a multi-millionaire. And we're going to be like, this is where he started at. And we're going to take all the credit. Absolutely not. That's not what we do over here. We're going to take credit for other men's accomplishments. But as you can tell, like I said, there's an age difference between us. But at the same time, he is viewing the same world we live in, but just from a different set of eyes. Dorian still lives at home, but is looking to start the process of leaving the nest. All the men on this platform have left the nest and know what this experience is like. Dorian doesn't, but soon he will have to experience all of his own. Until then, what can the men of this platform offer him based on what we have learned, and at the same time understand things are not like it when we left the nest? We have to remember to understand Dorian's lens is not the same lens we look through. Dorian and other men of his generation are having questions and trying to find out the cheat code so they can have a certain level of success in their lives. With life, these young men will have to figure it out on their own. However, this elevated dialogue can shed some light on some of the things they can do to help navigate this thing called life a little easier. Again, Dorian, welcome to the show. All of you guys up here, I appreciate y'all being here. I've been looking forward to this conversation ever since me and Dorian talked about it earlier during the week and over last week, and when I first reached out to him and wanted him to be on the show. And one of the first things I want to do is I just want to go around the horn. I don't really care who goes first, but I want to just go around the horn and start talking about, what our experience was when we left the nest. I don't care who go first.
Well, when I left the nest, it was, I joined the military. That's when I really left the nest. But I guess the transition was like, I started working when I was 16, saved some money, bought a car so I can get myself back and forth to work. And then, I was going to school for a little bit. at a JUCO to figure out if I wanted to do college at a higher institution level. Wasn't in sync with what I had going on, so I joined the military. So, and then I did 12 years and 7 months, and I mean, I guess my transition was just more or less looking at the elements and looking at what I wanted for myself, and being willing to just leave. Nobody had to really like push me out or nothing like that, but it was always known that if you didn't like the rules, you know what I'm saying, go get your own roof. What about you, Antoine?
Sorry about that. I'm a little different. I had an amazing relationship with my parents, still do, right? So nothing pushed me out of the nest. I didn't need to leave the nest. They provided me with the privacy I needed, and I had two older brothers. They had left to go off to school and do their thing. And when they came back, they were more like they just needed their space, I guess. But they would have lived at home, um, for as long as it took to get on their feet. So when I left it, when I had having that relationship with my dad, he made it clear to me. He goes, if you leave this nest, I don't mind. You can stay as long as you like, but you're going to leave with money because you're not going to come back and be in a bad position. I never left because he wanted to be comfortable to be able to do what I wanted to do, have a part-time job. So I made sure I had a solid amount of money in my bank. I made sure I had at least 3 years rent. That's how good it was, right? Food, you can always get food at home. I wasn't worried about that. So I never really left. The only time I left is when I moved here. I used to take care of them, and they gave me the privacy. And being in Montreal, you had basements, so I had the whole basement to myself. My father still had his man cave in the garage. My other two brothers' bedrooms were free, so I never had a reason to leave, and I never seen a reason to leave. And women were the last things on my mind about that, because my father told me, if you're fucking her, don't bring her home. If she's somebody you want us to meet that you're going to marry, that's when we meet her. I don't want to meet nothing besides that. So I never had that problem, and I never had to second guess bringing a girl home because I wasn't allowed. It was his house, his rules. And I respect that 100% because if it's my house, it's my rules as well. So, that's how it happened for me eventually to leave, because I came here, pursued animation and all that.
Well, Dorian, for me, I left the nest only because I think it was time. You know when you know, because there is something happening either in the nest that needs to change, and I knew at that time that I was growing bigger than where I was. Like, the individuals in the household weren't they weren't bad people, but I was growing much faster and wanted to elevate myself in a different space. And I needed to leave that comfort zone of being around your family, your parents, and being alone. In addition to that, I needed some independence. Definitely needed the independence. But one of the reasons why I left when I did was because I got a job, and a well-paying job. At the time, I didn't have to get a college degree to work, and I had finished high school, and I got a well-paying job. So that sustained me for a good 5, 6 years. So I had enough money to leave. I had enough money to get an apartment, and I did that when I was just 19 years old. So you will know when it's time to leave. I would say don't rush it. Certainly prepare yourself before you go. Don't leave just because everyone is doing it. Leave when you're ready and when you feel it and you know that it's time to get out and grow and get on your own for some level of independence.
Yeah, so for me, I would say that it was more of a necessity. That's how I ended up leaving. No one kicked me out or anything of that nature. It was just time for me to go. Um, but it was a slow roll. I thought I was going to do the college thing. So I did the college thing in conjunction with the National Guard. And I realized that me and college did not have a good relationship my first stint. So, from that point on, after my first year, I said, forget this, I'm going in the Army. And I did the Army for 3 years, and I didn't like the Army too much, to be honest with you. So I got out the Army, my first rodeo, and I ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, doing retail management there. At what was the Eastland Mall? It no longer exists, but it's down Independence. Uncle Junior laughing because I think you know where that's at, or where that was. And then after that, man, I'll tell you, I was an assistant manager at Foot Action, to be honest with you. And all it took was a couple of Jordan release. And I don't know what it is, man. When you're on salary, they expect you to work like 80 hours a week when Jordans come out because that's what it equated to. And I said, forget this, man. I didn't work this hard in the Army. So I went back in the Army, man. And when I went back in the Army the second time, I decided to make it a career. And I really, going back and reflecting on me going to college the first time, I didn't finish my college degree until after I retired in 2015. Just simply because I was too busy being all you can be. So again, nobody forced me out, but kind of like what Orville said there, I knew it was time for me to go. Where I'm from, it wasn't a whole lot going on. If I stayed there, chances are it wasn't going to turn out too well. It wouldn't have turned out the way I wanted it to turn out. And so the image that I had in my head about what my life was going to be and what my environment was showing me, they just didn't line up. So that was the reason why I left.
I'll go next since my story kind of parallels coaches, and it was one of our talking points, connection pieces. Same thing. I left the house, but when I left, I went to college for a semester. It didn't work out. I came back home and getting someone pregnant, and then went into the military. Found out while I was in the military. Ended up getting married. Military wasn't for me, so I got out and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And while I was in Charlotte, I worked there. Worked at Family Dollar. Couldn't move up anymore. Felt like I couldn't have any more opportunities. I was 22 years old, and I was trying to own the distribution center. So I realized, I was like, well, you can't hold me back in the military. You can't stop me from getting promoted. So, like coach, I decided to go back in. And then I ended up making it a career as well. I wasn't forced out either. I knew I wanted to leave. It was just like I didn't think that it was I didn't think that men should be staying at home past the age of 18. So that's what I think I was kind of taught to me and what was kind of pushed on to me, even though I wasn't pushed out. But I think that was kind of sort of what I always assumed, that once you graduate high school, you're supposed to leave and you're supposed to go and do something. So um, that's kind of how my leaving the house experience went. Ooh, Roland and Chris.
Yeah, okay, I go. From I guess my experience is totally different, which is why it's a group of guys on here, because I grew up in the inner city and I didn't have any guidance. My mother was on crack, my father was on heroin. I was being raised by my great grandmother, and when I found out about my mother, it tore me up. So I just, you know, didn't have any respect for anybody. So I was doing any and everything, and then I started to, that route of having children early. So I'm like 14, expecting children and things like that. So I did something dumb and I got put out the house at 14. So I went couch to couch and house to house pretty much until I was 18. And at 16, I got shot and I knew I had to get out the city. Then I had another incident because I was just working odd jobs here and there. And I joined the military because I knew I needed some type of guidance that I wasn't getting on the streets. And I joined the military 22 years later. I was done with that. And so it was not when are you ready? It was, dude, you making these grown man decisions. So you can't live under other people's roof when you trying to be the grown person. I always told my children, if you living under my house, under my roof, I'm the one that make the decisions. If you grown enough that you feel you can usurp that, you need your own. I never wanted to be a person to say, okay, you got to get out, you got to go 18, you join an army or going to college or this, that, and other, because I know everyone has their own path. But I think when you know you want to do some things that where you can't follow rules, it's time to get your own.
Can you hear me?
Chris, you must got something good. You over there been cooking.
My story parallels Roland's, minus the children. I grew up in the hood. The dude my mom married really didn't teach me nothing except for 18 in a day. 18 in a day, you gotta go. He didn't teach me how to maintain. He didn't teach me what to do, how to do it. He just said 18 in a day, you gotta go. Because that's how his father did him. And that's how he did his other sons. I learned everything on the streets. Once my child support ran out and he couldn't siphon anything else from me, I was no good to him. So I didn't have any business in the home. I was working coach. We were talking about this when we were talking about the money thing. I was working 2 or 3 jobs because there was a mall literally up the street from where we lived. I worked at literally every store in the mall. I was gone from 9 in the morning till about 9 at night. I did the college thing, didn't really like it because I felt like I was following in somebody's footsteps that I didn't want to follow. I was trying to do what my mom thought that I should be doing because that's mom and I got to listen to her. Then when that didn't work, I started working and then I was out. No type of foundation, no type of this is what you need to do with your money. This is how you save. 18 in a day. I can't get no more child support out of you because you're over 18. So you got to go. You're useless to me now. And that's literally how it's been ever since. I didn't get the shot to go into the military because I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And back then there weren't waivers. So I couldn't join. And even doing that, I had to move back home. And that was miserable because the dude my mom married decided that even though I had tubes coming out of my chest and I was bleeding internally, I still didn't belong in that house. And I still needed to go. So ever since then, I've been literally on my own, learning as I go. And that's my story.
Hey, like Roland said, that's why we have a different panel, different set of men from different life and different experiences up here, because the viewer can look at this and they can see different points and different starting points, and then they can see the outcome too. Like regardless of, I'm not going to go across the horn, so I don't want anybody to feel left out. But like Roland, he started at 14 having kids to being retired from the military, so his starting point is different than mine was or Orville's was or anybody else's. So I think it's important to also understand starting points and where we're starting from. But Dorian, you haven't spoke yet, and that's been on purpose. But I do want to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself to the audience and then shoot us with a question of your choice.
Okay, I'm Dorian Paige. I'm a community college student, 19 years old. So I have a million questions I could ask, all the men on the panel, but I think I would like to start with because we're in the generation of information and social media and things of that nature, and something that's really prevalent in pretty much every guy that's my age that you would interact with is a struggle with comparison, right? And um, I I'm curious, is that something that went on, prior to, the age of social media? And if it was, how were those kinds of demons, dealt with, um, as far as comparison goes, and where you think you should be versus, where's the right place for you, if that makes sense.
What did you say? The comparison to what? I didn't hear that part.
So comparison
To
to other people your age, essentially.
when we
Can you give us
left.
a scenario?
Yes. Yes. When, like, for an
Give us a scenario.
example, um, a lot of guys, you know, they'll have like a fast car, or, you know, they'll be making a certain amount of money. And in this generation, that is something that you can see. And a lot of times it makes you look at yourself like, well, what am I doing wrong as a 19-year-old when this 19-year-old is doing this, is doing that? Was that something that went on, you know, when it was time for you guys to make those decisions as far as taking authority over your life?
So let me answer first, because I clearly understand the question. And what I will start to answer off is by saying that there is nothing new under the sun. It just looks
Yep.
different based upon the means of information. Back in my era, we had Encyclopedia Britannica. You guys got Google. You see what I'm saying? It just took me a little while longer to get to the information. My brother, I compared myself to every person I came in contact with. We compared ourselves to others based upon how they dress, based upon what you guys will call swag. I mean, you name it, there's comparison. I think we talked one Friday night, we started talking about the cool kids, right? You compared yourself to the cool kids, right? You see what they did, you see how they moved, and you started looking at yourself and second guess. Here's one of the biggest comparisons I know that I did. I compared myself to dual parent homes because I did not have a dual parent home. That was one of the things that hit near and dear to me because I often looked at how they moved, how they behaved, how they dressed, how they acted, things of that nature. And then looking at me, it was just my mom. My mom did the best she could with what she had, and she worked hard. And then one of the things I did not want to do is let that woman down. So it was a huge comparison when it came down to me. And I can only speak for myself, but I think what you're probably going to hear is that these brothers are going to kind of just piggyback off everything that I'm saying. We compare ourselves all the way up to the point that we realize that comparing yourself to somebody else is the worst thing that you can do.
All day, because
Oh,
comparisons in a useful sense, you can you can take guidance underneath your parents' roof, right? And you may feel like they're boxing you in, you know, stifling your growth, or whatever words you want to use to be to describe being held back until they let you go and you go out and realize there's some things that they actually protected you from, or the things that you actually remember that they taught you that you use at that moment in time, right? Because the comparison is like if you look and you could tell like that looks awkward, but it's inviting me to come into it, whatever that space is, right? And then when it doesn't feel right, your reference point is what you were taught, so you got something to compare on a positive note. So yeah, like you're asking about comparison in terms of how has it been throughout time. And coach is right. Everybody's gonna piggyback off of this. There's another version of the same story in every generation. Another version, like it's the 80s again with Russia back in conflict. You see what I'm saying? We got an economic crisis. We got a Democratic president. You like it's the same mix. You know what I'm saying? Or there's a lot of tension in politics just between Democrats and Republicans. No different than during the 80s when they had the Reagan administration. We're starting to see, something starting to cycle again, and you guys are coming on the cusp of a major disruption right now where you can choose any direction you want to go. So that's why, like, I don't remember any 19-year-olds that was making millions of dollars. That doesn't mean it wasn't anybody out there that we could compare ourselves to see if that's what we wanted to do. But a lot of the negative comparisons were like guys that was in the streets, you know what I'm saying, doing harm to their communities. You know what I'm saying? So like there was like no gray area. It's either you all the way street, and prepared to deal with whatever comes with that, or and like I'm 43, so a lot of my generation went to college. You know what I'm saying, where I'm from. So because there was a huge push on that, and then I'm watching you guys at 19 not even need college. You know what I'm saying? Shun education. Like that was unheard of in our time, but times have changed because a lot of the teachers are our age now, and we can't sell the game that we know you know what I'm saying, what wasn't always valid. There's a level of obsolescence that plays in terms of how many things can repeat themselves and still remain valid. So pay attention to the credibility of the person that you're listening to. Pay attention to the weight of the conversations that they're involved in, and pay attention to whether or not that person that's talking can receive and implement and apply new information. That'll tell you whether or not you're getting the right information from the right person, or at least in the right space to take in the right info.
Yeah, I want to echo Victor and Coach. When it comes to comparison, you have to be careful. I think I've said this before on this show, that you are where you are when you're supposed to be there. So you have to understand that when you compare yourself, it's really a self-esteem issue. You start thinking about yourself and how you align with other people, whether or not. But the big thing is that you cannot compare yourself, because you don't know how they get to where they are, how they got what they got. And you have to be careful, because there are some people who, and I would say in my time, I only was able to compare myself to people when I saw them. I didn't have to go looking for them. You guys can easily see these guys on social media. You can see your friends, flossing and doing all kind of stuff on social media. They're sending pictures to each other. I didn't have access to see anyone. I didn't have to go looking for them. They were there. It's either they were present or they weren't. So the only way I could actually see what they had was if I was in their circle. And that comparison, definitely as a teenager, you're going to think about what they're wearing, how they look, how they dress, how they come to school, how they present themselves at work. You're going to assume certain things. But you have to remember that you can't compare yourself to people that you don't know how they get to where they are. You don't know their journey.
Especially especially in this social media age. I'm gonna keep it real with you. Most of these cats on social media stunting for real. They ain't really got it like that.
Right.
It's a lifestyle that they need to show, so that way they can feel good about themselves and they can get that rush of dopamine. It's really what it is. If you can't see it tangibly, like go and touch it, then it's probably not there. And most of the people that's on social media will probably tell you that behind closed doors. They're just doing it for an image, just to be popular and just to be seen and just to feel good about themselves, because they got a bunch of likes from a bunch of people because they went one place. 9 times out of 10, they ain't even there. They just took a background and took a picture in front of it. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm gonna take a. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying they got stores for that. I think we were I was with my wife, who was in the mall the other week, the other month, and they have like a whole, you walk into this little store inside the mall.
Yeah.
Backgrounds and ring
Selfie
lights
booths
set up. Yeah, a bunch of selfie booths. Like you go pay a certain amount, you go and take all of these stuff. So it's out there, a whole bunch of fake clout chasing and doing all those things. But one of the things, since I'm talking, is that whole comparison piece. I was the same way. I compared myself to like what Vic said. Like I didn't see the people outside of my community. Just didn't. I didn't watch a lot of TV. I was ripping and running and playing sports and working jobs and stuff like that. So the people that I saw making money, like Vic said, were the people who wasn't doing good in their community. The dudes that was selling dope, dudes that was, chasing behind, getting all the women and getting girls and stuff pregnant, good, bad, or indifferent. Those were the dudes that I wanted to be like, because they had the flashy cars and all the girls and stuff like that. So, like Coach said, we all piggybacking. Yeah, we all had those comparison stories, and I think that that's normal. Like Coach said, until you realize that there's no need for it, at the end of the day.
I'm going to take a different approach. I'm going to say this. For me, first of all, I'm going to ask you, and you should ask yourself, you should really ask yourself, why are you moving out? Why are you leaving the nest egg? Are you telling me you can't do what you can do on your own at home? Is it a bad environment? Like, you have to ask yourself why you are leaving. And you have to ask yourself, are you financially capable of leaving? I'm not going to sell you the pipe dream that you're going to make millions with your real estate and it's not going to be a struggle. You just hit gold. No, I'm not going to sell you that because I don't know, right? You don't know what's down the line. You don't know what's around the corner. I grew up, I never compared myself to anybody because I grew up a lot around Italians. I mean, I knew a kid at 19 had a Lamborghini Countach, if you can remember that one. That was one of the first ones out, right? I never compared myself to any of these guys. These guys were driving Vets. But what I did compare myself to them is the character, their character. I didn't let them talk down to me. I let them talk to me. If they were mad, we were going to square up. So I didn't get intimidated by what they had, right? Because it's just money. And most of them talk behind money anyways. And most of them don't even have it as daddies, right? Let's be real. Now, I don't know. It's true. I don't know your environment, but I can tell you now, most people that if you flaunt it, it's because you just got it and you just never had it before. Because when you had it already, you really don't flaunt it. You really don't tell people you got a Mercedes. You really don't do any of that, right? Because it's you're in a normal environment amongst your peers, right? And you always know one guy that has a better car than you. So I wouldn't even say, don't even get into that comparison game. You know you. Now, you want to dress well for the part? Absolutely. Buy what you can afford, right? So take that approach, take that humble approach because you shouldn't be impressed with material possessions. Material possessions doesn't define you as a man. It just makes you look better than the guy next to you, but it doesn't show your character, right? It just represents who you are, but it doesn't define you as a man. So if you dress in a suit, you could be a lawyer and accountant. You know what I mean? You dress in a basketball outfit, you could be a coach. Really don't care. And I really didn't care about Jordans and all that sort of stuff. But I cared about building myself up because that Lamborghini, that Ferrari, I saw all that stuff I saw. I said, man, I really want to be, but I want to have it, right? And then I found out the prices of it. And I'm like, Jesus. Then I found out, oh, daddy owns it. Daddy lent it to him for the weekend. So that didn't impress me after that. Yes, the girls came with the car and all that sort of stuff. So, but girls come anyways. Like I said, put yourself in the best position to get the best woman, right? The pickings are a lot better, right? And that's the way it is. And I always kept myself safe. I didn't want to be no baby daddy and all that sort of shit. So if you leave the house, just ask yourself an honest question. Why are you leaving? Is it that bad at home? And do you need to leave to do what you need to do? You should be asking yourself that. Because if you're just leaving for the sake of clout and flossing, you're leaving for the wrong reasons. Because in the end of the day, you're going to take care of your parents anyways. Right?
I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be real with you, Mr. Page. Mr. Page, you're
that's the rawest I'm going to tell you. But to compare yourself to other people, why? Why? What do you get out of it? If you're really looking at what are you getting out of it? You can look on Instagram and see all these guys, flossing in these cars. And do you really know if it's theirs? Do you really know if that Instagram model is really flying to, Shanghai and doing all this sort of stuff? Do you know if that guy really has it like that as a rapper? That could be all the money he has in his bank going like this. And it could be all ones with a couple of hundreds in the front. Don't do it.
Mr. Page,
you shouldn't be thinking in that realm.
I'm going to keep it real with you, Mr. Page. You are in a very privileged position because you have the choice. You have the choice to be at home until you get ready. A lot of us didn't have that. A lot of us was like, once you turn 18, you got to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
You are privileged. So what Antoine said is right. If you're going to move out, one, make sure you got a solid foundation. And two, make sure you have a very good why as to why you're moving out.
Because your parents are always going to remain the same, Dorian. They're always going to nag you. It's like that. But the nagging gets differently because in the end, you take care of them. You do. In the end, they take care of you. And in the end, you see them out. You take care of them. So that's never going to change.
Right.
Go ahead, Dorian. I seen you on mute.
Oh, sorry.
No, I thought you had something to say. Go ahead.
Oh, I did. I was just going to say, I wanted to ask, I'm taking that in, as far as what you all said, but how do I, having the choice to stay, in the nest and whatnot, how do I balance between getting too comfortable and falling behind and making myself uncomfortable as far as pushing myself? Because the push is not going to come from the comfort of the nest, and I guess what I do a lot of times is I kind of fear getting too comfortable, and then I'm, 25, 26, trying to, make up deficits that I gained from being too comfortable in the nest,
I got an easy answer for that. You're the one that says you're gonna be. You're the one that says I'm gonna be this entrepreneur millionaire. Go by your results. If you ain't got results, what are you going by? You're just a lazy guy on the couch looking like you're gonna make it like everybody else. Look for your results. If you don't have any results or nothing to compare it to, shut the fuck up and get to work. But don't cry
So
about it.
how you have to really ask yourself, if you really want these things in life as a successful entrepreneur, you have to determine how successful do you want to be, and if that success can be obtained from underneath your parents' roof, and then that'll determine what you're doing with your time. You know, getting complacent and stuff. Sometimes you have to. I'll tell you this: the only way to accomplish something worth accomplishing, you have to be in motion. Nothing happens when you sit still. So if you think that you can accomplish your real dreams by being underneath the roof of where you are, then you got to make some adjustments other places to hold yourself accountable for not getting complacent underneath that. Because I'm not saying you can't do it. If you got a plan that's rooted off of that, I don't expect you to have a plan that's rooted off of I don't know, maybe owning an apartment building somewhere else, right? You don't have that story, you don't have that background. But if you look at your current environment, your resources, and compare that, you have to compare your resources to what you think you want to become. And if you think that the car you drive, the networks you have, the associations that you got that's in your phone, if that talent is already in your phone and you got the discipline to go along with it, I'm not saying you can't make it happen or whatever, right? But generally speaking, most successful people leave the nest. Like, you have to go test your survival instinct. You have to trigger your survival instinct. You got to be in it. You got to be like a lot of men up here that have served. We done had to get low somewhere before. You know what I'm saying? Rounds getting shot over your head, stuff blowing up, puts a lot of things in perspective. You know what I'm saying? So trying to give a tangible discussion to, you know, someone that's trying to figure out whether or not they can leave the nest to go be successful. Like, what you're looking at, everybody up here left home, period. So that's the first thing. So if you start gearing your objectives and start aligning what you want your goals to look like in conjunction with leaving the house, you'll have a better picture of that. But you just got to decide how successful you want to be and determine if your plan lines up with where your feet are planted at right now.
I got to jump in because I see it's going like double dutch. You got to jump in when you can.
Like discipline today.
Yeah, comparison breeds contempt and resentment when you're looking at somebody else's stuff because it ain't yours. Now, leaving the house, we are the only people who put our children out at an age. We put them out. Say, hey, you got to go at a certain age, instead of building them up and building our own little community in our house, where if you're in the house, to the way I would do it, if I could go back, I would stay in my parents' house, realizing it's my parents' house. It's their house. So I'm never comfortable enough to just lounge, because I always got to have a mindset to think I got to get what they have at least. So build yourself up while you're there, whether that be knowledge, whether that be owning homes. My little brother did it. My little brother, he owned like 5 homes before he moved out his mama's house. He owned properties. So when he did leave the nest, he was already prepared financially. And just because you are of age, you never want to disrespect anybody. When I go home, if I go to my mother's house or my sister's house or whomever it is, I respect their house. I don't just take from their house. So I'm not just coming to eat their food. Whatever I clean up after myself. So if I was living there, it would be the same. So I think Antoine, he had it made. He was able to live under his parents' roof until he was ready. Yep. And I think when you get in the mindset that I have to build myself and keep that mindset, don't just let it go, and keep that grind. You always got to keep a grind. I do a certain thing for me. I always, like, at least once a month, I eat PB&Js.
Yeah.
Because I remember when that's all I had. Sometimes no J.
Listen, no matter how old you are, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is never a bad idea.
Big facts.
I don't care how old you are.
Yes.
A peanut butter and jelly sandwich is never a bad idea.
It
Now I'm gonna
reminds you,
mute
it
my
ain't a
mic.
steak.
How many people
Hey.
toasted the sandwich? Did anybody toast, or it's just, or you just ate it? You toasted it. Me too. I like the warm peanut butter melt.
Yeah,
right?
cause y'all bougie. Yo,
No,
check it out.
we had molded bread.
Toast
We
it.
cut the mold
Y'all
off,
bougie.
and
Who
you
eats
cut
the
the mold
toasted
off.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Man, y'all bougie.
Oh, toast
Joe
it.
had his on
Listen.
science.
Listen, I want to get the other
Yeah.
side of it because I think Roland brought to the table what I wanted to talk about. I think there's two forms of respect because you talked about the comparison and not getting complacent, right? And I think you're on the right track. Two things I want you to consider, and both of them surround respect. Never lose the respect that the house belongs to your parents. That's first and foremost. So always remember that you are their son. Even if you're a grown man, you're still their son. You never lose the desire to learn from your father, right? And never lose the nurturing that your mother gives. You always lean into that. And the other thing, respect your dream. That's the other part I want to leave with you as well. If you never lose sight of those versions of respect, you can stay in your parents' house for as long as they allow you to stay, and you will never ever take anything that they do for you for granted.
Yeah, I want to lean in on that too. The idea that you have to leave because you don't want to get complacent, you have to be careful. You really, really, really need to assess where you are and assess the environment in which you live right now. I know you said something to the effect that you're not sure if the environment is going to support your dream and the things that you want to do. So you don't want to get complacent and then get to 25, 26 and you haven't achieved what you want. But you have got to assess those things as you go along. At some point in time, you may decide, I have to go because I really can't grow where I am right now. Maybe everyone is busy and you're on your own, you're not really getting supported. And if you're in a different environment, maybe if you're in a quad with some other guys and gals, you can maybe, build yourself up. Maybe they have the same dream. Then you can definitely decide this is what I want to do and I want to leave at this point. But I think everyone has said it. You have got to be careful. Respect the home you're living in, but you have got to be careful to rush it. Make sure you build yourself up. If the home is respected, everyone is there, and they're not pushing you out, there's no reason for you to rush to get out. Build yourself up, get what you need, and then you can make the move more seamlessly. It's going to be hard when you leave. It's going to be very hard when you leave because it's going to be challenging and you have to stretch yourself at that point. But there's no reason for you to put yourself in that position now if you don't have to.
Are women a justifiable reason as to?
No.
Are you
No,
kidding me?
No.
Did he ask that question? Did he really ask
Are you
that question?
kidding me?
You're gonna get Antoine on
Listen,
you.
listen,
No,
Did you really just ask
no.
that question?
Listen.
Never.
There's no
Which head are
context.
you thinking
Listen,
with? What head are you
listen.
thinking with?
There's no context to be added to that question. The
Oh
answer
my
is
goodness.
The
No.
answer is
That's it.
no.
That's
No.
Dorian,
Think with the one on top of your shoulders. How about that?
That's it.
Mr. Page,
Lord have mercy. I
you
can't
are
believe
in
you
a
asked that question.
very, very privileged position right now because you, like I said, you have the option to stay at home. A woman should be the least of your worries right now. You're young, you got things you need to do, and you have places you need to go, and you have goals you need to accomplish. Do not allow a woman, I don't care what she is, I don't care what she does, unless she is helping you on your journey. Even then, you have to truly vet her to make sure she's helping you on your journey because she knows that that's your journey and not that she's going to benefit from it. If she's not doing that, focus on you. You have your youth, you have your knowledge, you have your ambition, you have your goals. Those should be your top priorities. And I'm going to shut up.
I'm gonna
Dude,
tell you like my father
she's
told
a
me.
dime. She's a dime at 19. She ain't gonna be a dime in 10 years. I
And-
guarantee you that when you make your money. She's a
Right.
dime at 19. At 29, she's a ball and chain. Guaranteed. So do the math.
I'm not gonna go that far.
Oh,
But-
Now, we're not saying don't have fun.
Oh, yeah,
Not
have
saying
fun.
don't have fun.
And double
Enjoy
bag
your
it.
youth. Enjoy your youth,
My
but be
grandmother
very,
told me
very
this.
careful.
My grandmother told me this, and I'm not trying to be crass, but my grandmother told me that you can get some pussy faster than you can catch a cold.
Yeah.
So that's a dime a dozen. I know you feel and you want and all this other stuff, and you may have a deep bond for this person, but you have to actually know who you are before you even invite her into that type of situation. Because all you do is get with her, then next thing you know, y'all not together because y'all don't like each other. Y'all out of love and all that. But know yourself first, because women come just like men come a dime a dozen.
Yep. Tell her
I
what you
just,
Mr.
want. She's here
Page,
to get the cookie.
I just
Mr.
asked this.
Page, do you have children?
No.
Oh, get out of here, man. Go live your life and go reach your goals.
I
I'm
just,
42 and I don't have any children. You
hey,
have all of the options out there, and there's nothing tying you to where you are.
I just asked a simple question, and I think the answer, Mr. Page, that you can give to this question will actually answer that question for you. Which is your number one priority? Achieving your dream or being in a committed relationship right now?
Achieving my dream, easy.
There's your answer right there.
A committed
It's
relationship
James,
at
look,
19.
you right now
Go
you
achieve your
19 and
dream,
0.
brother.
You 19 and 0. You are undefeated.
Yep. Go
Okay?
achieve your dream.
And we're not against women. I want to
Not
make sure
not
I
a,
No,
say that.
no,
We're not
absolutely not.
against women, right? We believe the best way to where we can set the conditions to where we can support women, right? Be that provider and that protector is achieving your dreams. And the closer you get to your dream, then you can see who's running alongside you, that young lady. And what you'll find is that she's actually parallel with your dream because she has the same vision that you have. Once you realize y'all have the same vision, then there can be no division. Once you realize that there's no division, two visions, then you see that you guys are equally yoked. That's why we're talking the way we're talking right now. If you do it right now, only thing, and and I don't want to make a generalized statement to put everybody in this bag, but you don't know whether they're just looking to say, "Oh, I like his dream. Let me jump on board and see if I can be a meal ticket along the way and do absolutely nothing to contribute to the success of your dream." You don't know that right now, and that's why we're speaking the way that we're speaking.
a lot of people don't even have a dream for themselves, dude. A lot of people haven't done anything since graduating high school. A lot of people aren't good at anything. A lot of people, by virtue of the fact that you already know how you want your life to go in terms of like having a dream, a vision, something, a personal accomplishment, you are so much further ahead than you would ever believe. Because a lot of people didn't know. You heard Roland and Chris's story. They didn't have time to think about that. It's a lot of young men that's your age that have been in survival mode the last 10 years of their life, and you really can't think of success or personal development with your brain in survival mode. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not using the most creative parts of you, you're using the animalistic parts of you. Things that are fight or flight. So you're going to respond accordingly. By virtue of the fact that you can even be here on this panel and have this conversation with men that are telling you from experience, authentic experience, what you should be focused on. Um, you're getting every clue to keep you on the right path. You don't bump into this many men with this type of experience willing to be as transparent and vulnerable as we are, for you to like listen to it and say, not a big deal, and then go make whatever choices you make and then turn around and look surprised. um I think everybody chooses their lowest point, and if you always gonna bump into somebody that said, if I had it to do over again, and that gap is getting shorter and shorter, and it won't take long. 5 or 6 years from now, you might be sitting in a chair like this talking to somebody your age, and it really does happen that quickly. All of us have been where you are. Understand that you haven't been where we are, and if you do that, and if you can maintain a level of receptiveness, coachability, you can implement and apply the things that you can learn from these conversations very quickly, and you will look back and think, what was I afraid of? Information trumps fear.
Coach, you had something. You was unmuted.
Who, me?
Oh no, I
Oh.
thought Coach had something to say. I thought he had unmuted. Hey, I'm gonna give a shout out to the chat. Appreciate you, Antoine, Shale. I see you in there. Tim Davis, Sandon. Sandon said his mom kicked him out when he was 20. Already working a full-time job and school full-time. Dirt poor, making $8.50 an hour.
In
Hard.
New York.
It was a hard start to life, but it forced me to grow up quick. Looking back now, and I wouldn't change it. I think a lot of us kind of feel that same way. Well, I must speak for me. I wouldn't change anything, but what I would do if I had more information, I probably would have did things differently. I think there are some pros to cons to staying at home, and I think there are pros and cons to leaving the nest. And with my sons, I would say how I did it. My oldest son's 27, and I pretty much me and my wife, my ex-wife at the time, um, we did what we thought we were supposed to do, and what we thought was to push him out. You turn 18, you need to be gone. By the time school start, you need to be in college. You stay in college, you can stay here, but if you're not in college, then you got to leave. And this wasn't even that long ago. This was only in 2013. So that was my mindset in 2013. Since then, I've acquired more information and I've adjusted the way I think. I think that there is something to be said about preparing kids before they leave the house. I honestly can say that I didn't prepare my oldest son to leave the house. And I sent him out there in the world. And like I said, I didn't prepare him. And even my second one, I didn't. And like I said, I'm 100% accountable for my actions. And I've already shared this with my sons. At the same time, I'm learning, I'm still working. And I know if I had to do it all over again with them, I would have made sure that I've equipped them with the information they need, and or allowed them to stay at home as long as they had a plan or something like that, you know. And I think when Coach is talking about being respectful to your parents' house, I think that may go along with that. Like if you respect their house, you're not just gonna be laying around on the couch being a bum. You know, you can understand that it's their house, that you need to respect it and abide by their rules, and you need to be an active participant, you know, in the house and not just, you know, someone who's sucking up all the air and eating up all the bagel bites, you know. So
And
I think
you know the chores to maintain a house. You know you should be doing the lawn. You know what you need to do, so you shouldn't be lazy about doing it. And you shouldn't let your parents ask you to do it because you're at that age where I think you use your brain to go, you know what? My dad's old. He's up there in age. My mom's doing this. It's my responsibility. That's the least I can do for what I'm getting around me. You know what I mean?
So wait, I just lost my thought.
you want us to go back to that first question?
Yeah, sure. So
No, I mean like that first one, like beginning before the show.
yeah, I'll shoot it.
All right.
Okay.
Then we're gonna start with you.
Okay.
Then you
so,
gotta roll.
All right. So how old were you all when you guys made the first big purchase, whether it be a car, apartment, house? You know, how old were you all when you did it? And how did you do it?
My first big purchase, it was me buying my duplex. You know, I know earlier I said it was the car, but I was still at home for like another 18 months. So I thought about that and I'm like, yeah, I saved a little money, but that car, like I worked on it so much, it wasn't as reliable. But like my first purchase was an investment property. And the way I went about doing it, I joined the military and I used a VA loan and bought a multifamily. And I purchased my first property in 2009 while I was in Iraq. I was in Baghdad, and I bought it. Oh, I bought it online. So when I got back from overseas, I had a place to stay. So I had to make sure I had a roof over my head. And I had the right resources, and I knew how to use them. I had some other mentors that told me what to do, especially my uncle, because he was in the Navy, so he had like a tangible means to be able to advise me on what he did. and maybe it could work for me, and maybe it will be custom fit for wherever I was. But he gave me the information I needed to make the decision that made sense. So I don't think you get good advice on stuff until you decide to move forward with your life. Because like nobody can give you advice on how to stay put. You don't need help with that. You need help going forward when you're trying to figure things out as you go.
Yeah. When they say first big purchase, that's all relative to the person, because big purchase could be anything. For me, it was furniture. I've never bought anything more expensive than furniture the first time I left home, at 19 years old. I got an apartment, and putting furniture in it was very expensive. So that was my first experience at spending a lot of money to equip and to furnish my place. Um, Aside from that, I think the first big thing that I purchased outside of that was a car when I was in college, and that was a few years after leaving home. I didn't get my first property until I was really, really grown. And, second property I was out, it was actually last year I bought a condo. So it's relative to who you are and what you conceive to be big purchase. Because a big purchase could be a bike. It could be, just what's in the household. So just to answer your question, I didn't buy anything of value, I would say, until I was 19, and that was merely furniture before I left the house. After I left the house.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I think so. When I first left the house, like I said, I went to college and everything. I didn't buy anything. I didn't really start making any purchases. Probably I was back into the Army, when I was in the Army the first time. And first of all, it was phone bills, a lot of phone bills. I had ran up $1,200 worth of phone bills, and first time called me in was like, "You can pay this, you can pay, you can pay this, or you pretty much get an Article 15." So I had to pay that. So that was a big purchase. And then like over mine was furniture. I got married, had an apartment, went to Halleck Myers and rented up. Some of y'all remember Halleck Myers. Coach laughing and rolling. We telling our, hey, that's where people used to go in the hood to go get cheap furniture. You'll get you a furniture for, I don't know, for cheap. It was cheaply made, but you paid for it in the long run. But you could pay by weekly, by monthly, so you can pay for it over an extended.
Like rent a center.
Like a rent a center. Yep. That's pretty much what. So that's what I bought growing up. And I was married. I got married at 20. So right around 20 years old, 19 and 20, when I started spending my money on all of that stuff. And what that led to, because I didn't build myself up or have anything, that led to a lot of debt early on. I was 19, 20 years old, and I was well into debt already. So that was me. Over before you roll out, man. Over, we're going to roll out real quick. Anything you want to say before you roll out to Dorian or anything like that?
Just want to say good luck. Moving out on your own is a big move. Just take it easy. Don't try to rush it. This is something that you need to really think about. I think everyone has said it before, that you have to respect where you are. And if the environment is not conducive to you being there, then that's a better reason to leave than for some other frivolous reason. So just really think about why you're leaving and try to put yourself in a position where you can actually take care of yourself before you leave the nest.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right.
Brother Antoine.
My big purchase wasn't a purchase, it was an investment. I took all my money and moved here. And it was an investment in me because I knew there was no looking and turning back, right? And I knew I had no friends besides the guy that let me sleep on his couch. I had no car. So my big purchase was an investment in me, but I knew I was going to do it. I knew I was going to make it. I didn't come here second guessing myself. Like I said, I invested the time at home, really milking it and really, really, really believing in my craft. And then just saying, okay, This is the time to do it. This is it. Finished school, saved up enough money. Father wanted to give me money. I said, nope, I got it, Dad. I got this one. Yours is going to be considered emergency money. Came here, and it was an investment in me, man, and I did not look back.
Can I ask?
Where you?
Oh, geez. Let's see. I finished school 22, 23, maybe?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead.
So you and our situation is very similar because my parents, you know, they tell me I could stay until I'm 30 as long as I'm being productive and whatnot. When you did make that investment in yourself, were your parents supportive of that, or
100%? And they told me there's always the door open. No shame to move back home. You know, just remember the house rules. No problem. There was no shame moving back home. And they were 100% supportive. I had my crying days. I had my emotional days. I had my, oh my God, I missed my family days. I had no brother near me, no shoulder near me. I had nothing but the art on my back.
Can I ask one more question before the next one goes? One more? Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What did motivate you, given the fact that you had that nest to go back to? What motivated you to make that move?
I was the best at what I did. I was the best. I knew I was the best. I wanted to prove it. I wanted the world to see me. I wanted the world to see what I could do. I was determined. I was the best at what I did, and I needed to show everybody. I was in that kind of narcissistic, all about me. I wanted to blow everybody out of the water. I was hungry for that. I was hungry for fame in the art world. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what motivated me. And women. I wanted to get a lot of sex. I'm being honest with you. I wanted the best.
Go ahead, Ro.
That right there was when he was saying, you know, he had to get up and go and he invested in himself. That's what I was talking about, being in motion. Like nothing happens until you decide to get up and move and use your skills to live off the land.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the landscape is just relative, you know, to what you can, to what you bring to the environment, how it allows you to access the environment. You know, like if you go into a space where like Antoine's an artist, and if you go over there trying to be a mechanic, you're probably not going to fit in. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to get into a creative space that requires, you know, like painting, drawing, writing, and creative, you know, ways of, you know, illustrating ideas, you got to get in a space like with Antoine. So again, you got to go back, and this all pivots off of how successful do you want to be. You got to really be honest with yourself and decide, hey, I'm 19. What do I want my life to look like when I'm 49? You know what I'm saying? If you sit up here talking to a bunch of 40-year-old men, you know, that have a wide varying experience, you got to kind of get in their heads to figure out, well, how do you want your life to look like? I know what I want life to look like when I'm 53, you know? And if you start at the end and you know how you wake up, you know how your life smells, you know what I'm saying? Like from the food that's in the kitchen to, you know, like to the colognes you get a chance to choose from or whatever, right? And then you say, well, what did I do to get this level of comfort or this quality of life? And when you say, what did you do? You have to go and say, well, I got to have a skill if I did something, you know? And then when you decide if you got a skill, what is your skill in? Is it something that benefits you, or does it benefit other people? Can you use it to monetize it for yourself? If you can start answering those questions, like if that's what you really want, you're gonna get as many other people out of the way as possible to hone in on the thing that you're good at, that you can control, and you do not do anything to jeopardize your access to your talents. Period. Like if you're really good at a particular sport, how many times we see athletes and entertainers miss their opportunities because they did something dumb that took them out of the way? You know what I'm saying? So like you have to protect the access to your talents. Your talents are the key to you getting to your real goal and realizing it, you know, because you have to be in motion, doing the work. Things like Antoine was describing, taking all of his resources and relocating to another place to use his talents to live off the land. That's what you got to be able to do.
Now,
Smart coach.
with the, I'm gonna go back to the most expensive investment. I think the most expensive early on for me was getting married. I got married because I thought I was ready. My eyes had hearts and all that other stuff in it, and didn't realize how much it'd cost me in the long run when you two don't know each other. So it ended up putting me in debt. It ended up putting me in out of that marriage, but I still had to pay. Now, when it comes to where you are now, one of my daughters, she went to Clark Atlanta, got her bachelor's. She went to a school up in Manhattan, New York, and got her master's. And then while she was up in New York, she said, hey, I'm going to stay in New York and get an apartment. Now, mind you, when you're in school, you don't necessarily have credit. So what she did, I had an apartment up in New York. Her apartment cost more than my house that I have because it's in New York. So in turn, she had to come back home. Now, okay, cool. She's responsible. She had to come back home. And I don't say, well, hey, you got 60 days and all this other because she's getting ready to leave. But what I'm trying to get her to see is like, hey, what you were paying up in New York, if you were to come to Texas or any of these states down here, you can buy yourself a property. What I wanted her to do, and what I'm trying to get her to do, is buy a duplex. Buy a duplex, live in one side, rent the other out. You have to have somebody on your team in your ear helping you think logically for, as I think Victor said, down the road. So get you some people that's in your ear, not because right now we a bunch of old men. If we want to, old men play with toys just like young men. We just buy bigger toys, whether it's a car, whether it's a truck, whether it's guns, whatever it is. We buy our own toys.
That man is right there. Exactly.
So get yourself some people right there. That's in your ear that help you see, as Victor said, the end game.
We just play bigger games, baby.
Yep.
That's it.
And be willing to listen, man. You don't know everything. Be willing to listen. And it's okay to admit you're wrong. If you don't know, ask. You know what I mean? People talk more when they think you're stupid. They like to talk. They just want to impress you, and they verbal, and they start and be like a sponge and suck it all up. Because when you act like you know, it shuts a person down right away. But when you act like you don't know, but you need more information, play stupid. Ooh, they love that shit. They just talk themselves to death. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Oh man.
What?
Huh?
I thought you was about to hit him with the what?
Oh, no.
I thought you was about to hit him with the what?
I wanted to see what Chris' purchase was when he left the nest. Let me see what he spent his money on.
When I left the nest, my big purchase was a car because I was sick of riding a bus. I got a car. I spent $700. I bought a Saturn. Remember when the Saturns was out, the little small little joints? I had a Saturn, and I loved that car to death. I rode that thing till the wheels fell off of it. I think the engine blew, the transmission blew, all of that. But I had my own way to and from work. I got sick of standing outside in the cold and in the rain, catching the bus to the job. So I got a car, and then after that, when I got my place, my next big purchase was furniture. But the thing was, I bought my car. I didn't go to the dealership and run up my credit trying to get a car. I bought a little clunker to get me to and from work. And then I got furniture. My furniture was a rent-to-own, kind of like how y'all had it when y'all was talking about y'all spot that's similar to Rent-A-Center. I did the same thing. I did the rent-to-own thing. I wasn't trying to destroy my financial life when I first got grown, because when you first hit that 18 and you hit them college campuses, the first thing that they do is they try to throw a bunch of credit cards in your face and say, hey, you can get this since you're in school, and it's an instant approval, but they don't tell you that you got to pay that back plus interest if you miss that first payment, or if you don't pay the full amount that you spent on that credit card. They didn't tell us that. You understand what I'm saying? So like I said, I bought my car. and then I got some furniture because I was tired of sleeping on the floor. Those are my two big purchases. I didn't really splurge like that. It
I
wasn't
had
in
an
me.
arrow bed.
Yeah, it wasn't in me. It wasn't in me to splurge like that. So yeah, those are my two purchases.
All right. Yeah, I got I'm gonna roll on to this next question real quick because one of the ones that I shot out. What should young men who are thinking about leaving the nest be focused on? So what should these young men be focused on?
Well,
Yeah, we answered that already.
We
yeah,
did?
Yeah.
their
No,
purpose.
no, no. It wasn't. It
Yeah,
wasn't that.
we
You
answered.
didn't ask
Yeah,
Just the
we went
contextual.
we went through that when he was talking about.
when he asked about the woman. That's the
Yeah,
answers that we gave then.
yeah, we
Yeah,
went
that's
through
the
that when
answer.
he asked about if a woman should be the reason he leave.
Oh yeah, I forgot to do
Accountable,
one of these.
accountable masculinity rule number 1: men focus on men, nothing else. Focus on yourself.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna tell you, Dorian? Man, I'm gonna tell you this because they're not saying it. You get yourself a good wolf pack. Surround yourself with good people because you're as good as the company you keep. And don't listen to none of them. Ain't no woman allowed in a wolf pack. Ain't no woman allowed in that. You find yourself a good wolf pack, man, and you devour anything around it. That's what you do. A good wolf. And remember, if they don't serve you a purpose, don't have them in your wolf pack. They have to serve a purpose. They're not there for friendship. You can get a dog for that. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna tell you.
All right. Well, let's try this question. Hopefully I didn't ask this one. Hopefully this one may have not been the answer. How do young men start to free themselves financially to leave the nest? Like, people mentioned Antoine saved up a certain amount of money before he left. Some people were thrown out of the house. So financially, how should they start to free themselves so they can have the financial freedom to leave?
One way would be
I'm
to whatever you think you're gonna be paying in rent or mortgage or whatever. If you have it now, save that now. Put that to the side now. Don't touch it. Then outside of that, pay yourself first. And then you shouldn't have many bills. You should have bills like maybe a phone or this, that, and other. Maybe pay the cable bill around the house or something like that. But learn money and learn yourself and learn credit, because when you build your credit, you will see your credit will work for you when you get older.
Yeah.
Don't have it work against you. So build your credit while you're at home.
and that cash is king, but credit is power.
Power.
Understand your credit. This is something that we weren't taught coming up. We learned
Man.
this recently. If we would have had this 30 years ago, shit. You
I'd have
understand
been
what
a
I'm
man.
saying? Man, listen. Understand credit. Understand the 5 components of a credit score. Understand how much applying for stuff can hurt you if you do it too much. Have a couple emergency funds. You understand what I'm saying? Make sure you have a solid financial foundation. Don't leave the house broke. Don't
Buy a
do it.
life insurance policy right now. That is
Definitely.
so cheap for you right now, and get you on
Definitely.
with a cash value, and you can
It's
change
called
the
a
game of your
UIL.
life very quickly.
It's
Yep.
called a UIL. Get you one of
Buy
those
a
because
life insurance policy right now.
get you
A
one to
big
get you
one.
a UIL, because when you reach a certain point in a UIL, it'll invest in the stock market for you and it never takes losses.
And you could also borrow
Always
from
profit.
your life insurance
Yep.
policy without
Infinite
penalty.
banking. You can be your own bank, man. Like,
And you can
look,
you can borrow from it and the government can't tax it.
and here's the reason why I say that. Between, like, a lot of people already had real estate ideas, just like Roland was talking about his daughter's experience with paying for a property up in New York, and that's just rent. There's some things that if you don't control them, they will impact your life in a negative way. Because if you are caught up thinking about money, you are likely in survival mode and you're missing some stuff because you got tunnel vision, like we talked about before. Generally speaking, if every human being, let me know if you guys would agree. If somebody financially, if you could take care of your family, pay all your bills, deal with any emergency that came up, and extended emergencies like associated with your children, or if you got grandchildren or something like that, you would have so much of your intellectual capacity back to you that you could never, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can sit down and just create something new every day because you're not, like, aiming your efforts and all your talents at solving money problems anymore. Because, like, what do you have back to you, once you solve all your money problems? You got your creativity back, you got, like, your peace and things of that nature. The main point is that you do not want to leave the house in survival mode. So getting a skill that you can monetize where you can pay yourself, just like Antoine, he can auction off his paintings because that's an individual skill. Nobody can regulate that. If you don't have an individual skill, I'm not saying you can't survive or thrive in the world, but your options are different when you have an additional skill. Period.
Hey, so Roland and Chris, I'm a little disappointed in you guys, man. Y'all didn't give them the answer. Listen, go Google Dave Ramsey. Look up Financial Peace University. I'm trying to tell you, like, you will learn so much about money just by following Financial Peace University. So yeah, and that too, right? So here's the other part. I want to give my disclaimer. I am not a financial planner. I'm not a financial advisor. I want to make sure I start that off before I continue anything else. You learn a lot when it comes down to, just going through Financial Peace and studying what Dave Ramsey has to offer. For me, one of the things I try to tell people, because at one point in time I used to teach a what I call a financial awareness course. One of the things I try to tell people, the first thing they need to understand about money is to put it in the right perspective. This is the key. Money is not the goal. If you mismanage and put money in the wrong perspective, then you will believe, unfortunately, you will believe that you will continue to pursue money and that it will never be enough. And then there'll never be a level of peace that you can attain because money is the goal. So you have to put money in the right perspective. You don't pursue it, it pursues you. Once you change your mindset to that, then you don't chase the money, you chase your dream. The money will follow you. Money is simply a resource. So once you understand that, you send it out so that it can acquire some of its friends and then it comes back to you. That's the best piece of advice I can give anybody about money. Never make money your number one objective because people are far more valuable than money, and you don't ever want to get to the point to where you devalue a person because of a dollar bill. That's the best piece of advice that anybody can ever say. And for you right now, just following in financial peace, because it's a self-paced study. If you follow financial peace, I promise you, by the time you're done with it, and you'll never get done with it, right? But by the time you're done with it, you will be light years ahead. And this is just assuming, I don't know what your understanding of it is right now, what your parents taught you, things of that nature. But if you were a blank slate, you'll be light years ahead by the time you get to the end of it, and you'll still be implementing some of those things right now. So for me, my advice: put money in its right perspective. Never put money over people, and get Financial Peace University.
And here's what I will say to that. Even though I think Dave Ramsey is a good man and all of those things, I think that he is only one way. So I think that what you should do is find someone who works for you that aligns with your ultimate goals. Like there's Susie Orman, there's Dave Ramsey, there's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's different ways to make money long term. So kind of find something that you like that vibes with you and rock with it. And to coach what coach is saying, Financial Peace University, that's a plan, that's a curriculum, that's structure, that's something that you can follow step by step by step by step. So I do suggest having something that's like that versus a bunch of people on YouTube's with different perspective, being flashy and different things like that. I think those can be used sometimes to supplement a structured program or a structured proven program like Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman or somebody like that, that can put you and show you the steps to that financial peace at the end of your life, or even and just starting off. Because these decisions, like right now, you investing $500 right now in a month, we wouldn't be able, we can't touch you if we started investing $500 a month right now, just because you have time and compound interest on your side because you're 19. You know what I mean? If you start now, you can be a millionaire way a lot earlier with just putting the same amount in just because you have time on your side. But not but however, you did unmute your mic and then I kind of cut you off because I want to say that. But go ahead, Dorian, and then we're gonna wrap up with some final thoughts.
Okay. So, with that being said, as far as, things to do financially to build yourself up to be able to leave the nest, um, when when is it time to put trial and error in the back seat as far as being a young man? So, for an example, I'm in real estate school now. I could get my real estate license, become a realtor. My business could flop, and I could go to college. That can flop. I can come home from college, get a job. That can flop. I can go to the military. Like, when is the time to really eliminate that trial and error and really commit to something as far as where you want your life in 10 to 15 years? Or is there not a correct time to do so?
Man,
Man,
you got to look at what you can do.
woo.
Like that's why look, you can only have what your skills will afford you. If you done tried a bunch of different things, that's just indications that you need to submit to something. You don't have that many opportunities when you're young to try to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Because the negative is always floating around. And if you keep getting into situations where you can't, and if you're not following through, at some point is you're the one that's quitting. If anything that keeps coming back to a cycle where you quit is your fault. And that's the personal accountability piece. You got to decide if the success you want is reflected by your present accountability. If you're moving in a way that's conducive to you living the quality of life that you want in terms of success and entrepreneurship and everything that you saying that you want, is your current way of thinking and doing conducive to the success that you want? And you got to have a personal accountability conversation at that moment in time when you decide, what am I going to commit to? Because like, it's you.
Now, my wife's a real estate agent, and you're in a perfect situation to do real estate right now, learning it, because you got the time to learn it where you ain't worried about, oh, I got to pay this rent. I got to pay this mortgage. I got to do this. So now this is your learning. This is your bumps in the road. You can get all them bumps out the way now, living under their roof, to where later on down the line, when you start making money, oh, I need this. I got it. When you start making money, because when she first started, I'm like, okay, but I afforded her that opportunity where she ain't bringing in nothing. Okay, cool, no problem. Because I had everything held down. You got somebody holding you down right now. So suck up the wants and desires to be gone and say, hey, I'm going to sit up here and grind. I'm grinding for this next year to put myself in a position to where I can help myself. I can help my parents. Vic keep preaching about the real estate and the life insurance, because those are things that you're going to need. You don't need those down the line. You need them now because they can help you. Because then once you start doing those, you'll start to get in like, man, I need an LLC. I need a C Corp. And then you'll get business oriented, realizing that you can do a lot of things simply by taking this time right now to take your lumps and bruises while you're at your parents' house, not having to go pay somebody else's rent.
Hey, I want to caveat off of what Roland's saying. I'm going to, in conjunction with what he is saying, the lower the risk you take, the less of a reward you're going to gain. When you have a proven backing system like he just gave you, like he gave a perfect example with his wife, and he compared that example to what you have with your parents. Right now, you have the perfect financial backer. Like, they got you. Like, you don't have to worry about where you're going to eat. You don't have to worry about where you're going to. In other words, you're not risking your family to achieve a goal. So you're in a perfect scenario. So you're in a scenario to where you can take risks, and some of those risks are not going to pan out, but one or two of those risks are going to hit. And trust me when I tell you, when they hit, you're going to thank you're going to thank everybody on the planet, because you took that risk and you came out on top. And that risk is going to put you in a position to where you can actually afford to go get a UIL, because a UIL ain't cheap, bro. Trust me, I'm just going to be honest with you. It ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? You ain't going to be making no $5, $10 an hour. Time you're going to get a UIL, they're going to say, no, we need a policy at minimum starting at $300,000. You know what I'm saying? Now, you're going to fund that up front, or you're going to pay that in installments. Wait, what? You see what I'm saying? So these things are great, but it takes a substantial amount of money to get there. So you're in a perfect situation right now so that you can take the necessary risk to achieve the level of success that you want. Again, the lower the risk, the lower the reward, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. To your question, when do you stop the trial and error? Never. That's a facet of life. Learning is part of the process. To learn, you must fail, right? There are some learning you're going to gain from great information from books, but you got to have the practical application. Within the space of practical application is failure. Failure is only failure once you stop. Therefore, trial and error is a constant part of life. Trust me. I'm talking. You're talking to what? 6 dudes on the panel right now?
This ain't even a thing that we're good at. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? We really just running our mouth and giving you game. Like it's published authors up here. It's real estate investors, it's veterans, it's counselors, you know, people with credentials, it's artists. It's just a wide palette of multiple things. But like Coach, whatever phase he's in right now in his life, I was in the Army at the same time with him. Like a lot of us were in the Army at the same time on the same installation, didn't even know each other until we started doing this. So the work you do that adds to your resume gives you the experience, the credibility from which to speak. So you can give some of this game back, but you can't talk about something that you never learned. And you can't learn something if you're not willing to follow. And you don't know how effective, you don't know how to measure your ability to understand things if you can't teach it. So you got to transition. Like right now, you're a pupil, you know, you get a chance to be mentored. If you accept it, if you apply it, you can go beyond us. We can learn something very quickly from you because of the mistakes that you won't have to go make. You know, like you'll go learn something completely different that we might not be able to mentor you on, you know, but because we've already given you the boundaries that we've had to establish for ourselves, you can implement those very quickly and, you know what I'm saying, and protect your space. So having, a clear, being able to not think out of survival and having somebody afford you the opportunity to be complacent, at some point you got to choose, because at some point you operating off audacity. You know,
Dorian, and let me tell you, Dorian, I'm going to burst your bubble. You're going to fail, and you're going to fail hard. You're going to lose money, right? It's going to happen. So don't think there's a perfect time to do. You know, when people say there's a perfect time to tell somebody something? No, there ain't no perfect time. The perfect time is when you think about it. Tell them, let them know. But you're going to fail. But it's how you handle that failure and how you really pick yourself up to reinvest again. Right? And then you're going to have to choose between eating and using that money to do something with it. You're going to have those tough decisions. Use the position that you're in, like I was, to make the mistakes. Knock yourself out learning where you are right now. We have zero responsibility for anything over our head. So don't think you're going in there and asking us when's the best. There ain't no best time, because you're going to fail. Because you know why? You're going to have to try to do it. Just like the rest of us. We all failed one facet or another, right? I used to sell my work for pennies to pay my rent. Sell my work to pennies to eat, right? Because I had to make those mistakes, right? Before I had a manager, I had to learn how one could rob you. You know, I'm not into real estate. It doesn't interest me. What interests me is investing in real estate to develop passive income and owning something. But I don't care how it runs. I just need to know the numbers add up at the end of the month, because it's not my forte. So I let somebody else do the accounting, somebody else do the surveying. You know I have an interest into land development. I kind of like that. So I wouldn't put myself into investing into real estate, but I would invest. I like investing in things that I know may have a possibility. Now I'm into NFTs. So I'm going to learn a bit about it because it's in the realm of art and design and stuff. So that's where my interest is going right now, right? But I'm going to take that money and invest it in an apartment building, create my passive income, right? Things that keep me interested, I'll probably want to learn it, right? So it's like my buddy, he's a big time real estate developer. He knows land better than me. He goes, listen, I got a deal for you. It's going to cost you this much to be in on it. I'm going to flip it at this time. This is how much you could win, and this is how much we can lose. And then I make the decision, right? And he has it's funny, his interest, his little hobby is playing DCS. That's like the games online. And he makes money doing that, and he really, really loves it. So his little income that he gets extra is from that. So, like Vic was saying, you're going to have to stumble. You may invest in something we know nothing about, but the formula is always the same. There's always that formula. You know what I mean? So all what you're learning from 6 guys in here that have done it and still doing it and aspiring to be up here, because I still want to be up here, and I don't think I'll ever stop getting hungry, right? Until I'm dead. I love eating, right? And I love going to the bank, and I love money, right? Now, will I screw somebody over for money? Depending on how much I like him. That's me. But at the end of the day, that's how my mind works. So I'm not going to try to change it. So make the mistakes. Don't be scared to make a mistake, and don't be scared to own it. Don't be scared to admit it, because the ones that admit it are the ones that are able to tell somebody else, I did it and I'm doing great now, right? So he who laughed last, laughed best. That really is. That's what I'm going to tell you, bro. Guaranteed.
Hey, I appreciate everything. We're going to get ready to wrap up with the final thoughts, but before we do, the order is in the chat for y'all. But I do want to say this to Dorian real quick. I just got a sad chat. I'm not going to expose the person, but they did say that they were very impressed with your questions, and I would definitely second that. I think those are some very good, well thought out questions that you brought to us to answer. So we commend you. At least I commend you on that, and I think I've seen a lot of heads going north and south. So I would not say that I'm not the only one who thinks that. But here we go. We're about to wrap up with the final thoughts. Starting off with you, Chris. What you got for us, brother?
This was a very good eye-opening show. And Dorian, your questions were what you came in here looking for something, and out of everybody that was on this panel, I think you might have gotten a little bit of it. We all have different experiences, and we've all shared those different experiences with you. I hope that you take what we've said and implement it in your own way in your life. You are in a very, 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 very privileged position, because you are in a home where you are not being forced out because you're over the legal age. Don't take that for granted, man. I wish I had that when I was your age. Don't take that for granted. You were a real smart dude. You were really, really smart dude. Like I said, just take what we said, formulate it in a way that it can work in your life, and just implement it. And don't be afraid to take a L, because if you're afraid to take a L, then you may as well not even start. The losses are going to come. In life, there are no guarantees. The only guarantee is change. That's all I got.
Antoine, you next.
Dorian, let's see. Dorian, I would say this. I'm going to tell you again. Use the opportunity you're in to make the mistakes. Realize you're going to fail, but don't look for it to come. Just let it come naturally as you thrive to do better, right? You had an idiot moment asking about a woman. I'm going to let that one slide. I'm going to let it slide. You needed to ask it, but it was an idiot moment. But that's okay. So develop a good wolf pack around you, a very good wolf pack around you. And I'm talking people that serve a purpose, not friends. They're friends within the wolf pack. So you can ask them questions. They may be doing something good at accountant. I got a lawyer in mind. Really develop a good wolf pack, right? And there's no such thing as a stupid question, only a person too stupid to ask it. All right. Be the guy that's always raising your hand. Use that moment. And then I would say this, and this is where I'm going to leave it. Invest in yourself. And the way you don't become complacent is to ask yourself, look at your results and ask yourself, where do you want to be in life? Where do you want to be? Straight up, be honest with yourself. And then ask yourself again, am I a smart guy to get there? Do I have the tools to get there? Do I have the ability to get there? Ask yourself these honest questions and be realistic in your answers, because you know if you're stupid, you know, right? That's what I'm going to say.
For me, last thing I got to say is simply humbling yourself to ask these questions. It says a lot about you. It says that you want better. So keep feeding that part of you. Feed that more than the desire to sit back and play around and do nothing. And also, I know your generation and some of mine, they like to be materialistic. You can't afford to be materialistic now. You got to grind. So whether it's the new J's, that the same ones keep coming out every year that people keep paying the same crazy dollars for, or whatever it is that you see other people going to buy stock in that stuff. Don't buy the stuff, buy the stock. And learn to invest, learn money. I'm telling you, learn money, learn investments, and learn how that works so that you can continue to build yourself and your wealth at the same time. That's it.
All right. So I like to write down words while people talk, and I came up with a few mistakes. Mistakes are part of the process. It's trial and error. It's an experiment. Life is algebra. All you're doing is constantly solving problems, and you're solving those problems and you're making calculations about how to mitigate loss. And mistakes are part of that mitigation. So don't treat the mistake as the goal. Treat the mistake as a boundary for understanding. Trust your gut, because most adults are winging it. Even your parents winged it to a degree. All of our parents winging it. And the only reason we have the wisdom that we have right now is because it wasn't given to us. We had to make the mistakes where we didn't trust our guts, and now we have the lesson from it in order to teach you. You got 2 ears for a reason, to go along with the 2 eyes. You're supposed to observe and hear more than you speak, period. And that amounts to respecting your elders, respecting experience, commitment. The greatest commitment you can make is committing to yourself. You're writing a contract to yourself out loud. You know what I'm saying? When you tell people what you want to become, that's the only thing that they know you by. So be powerful with what you speak, but be assertive enough to stay committed to what it was that you said. Self-development. You guys got YouTube University. Your life has all of the tools and information that you can tap into from any era in time so you can compare. Like what's changed and what hasn't. YouTube is a living repository of information real time. It doesn't afford you the opportunity to fail. So you got to make sure that the information that you consume is aligned with what you want to become. You really got to compartmentalize life in itself. You got to put some things in boxes, because when it happens to you in the mistake phase and the trial and error phase, you don't know why it's happening to you. You're trying to rationalize it. Trust me, put that in a box, move past it very quickly, and get on with the next play, because you should be focused on generating momentum, because again, someone else is affording you the opportunity to figure out what you want to become. At some point, if you don't get going, if you don't try, it's going to be seen as disrespectful. You have to commit to something. Everybody up here has had to do something they've never done to get something they've never had.
All right. I'm just going to kind of echo a lot of the things that some of the people have already said. I mean, you're not my son, but I'm proud of you just for asking the questions that you've asked. And I'm sure without a shadow of a doubt, your dad is proud of you as well. So one of the things I want to offer, because I offered previously, respect in two forms: respect your household, your parents, and respect your dream. One of the things I want to offer to you is to try to bring them two together. I think your father would be an awesome person to partner with, to share your dreams with. Share your dreams with your father and then sit down and talk with him about them as well. I'm sure, without a shadow of a doubt, not only will he find joy in that conversation, but he may have some insight that he can add to you as it come down to it. I cannot say that I have a ministry to help young men if I do not point them back to their fathers. So I must say, without a shadow of a doubt, first and foremost, sit down with your dad, talk with your dad, share with him your heart's desire, and then you guys get into an intimate masculine conversation about what that can possibly look like. And then at that particular point in time, listen to some of the things that he shared with you. He might surprise you with where you go from there. Roland brought up the point of humility, and I would not feel right if I don't caveat off of that. Humility is something that we gain. It is a progressive awareness. So we become progressively aware of a higher state of humility the more we practice it. So never lose the ability to practice humility throughout your journey. And last but not least, make failing part of your process, because the more you seek failure, the more you will grow. And that's it.
Um, well, I would like to lead with, a thank you. It's always an enjoyable experience listening to different perspectives. A lot of times, I enjoy speaking to, uh, many adults, because, I have, conversations with my parents, and a lot of times, it can get on my nerves because they just sound like parents. But it's always interesting hearing the same kind of thing come from other perspectives, because it always reminds me, that, they just want the best for me. But it was, enjoyable listening to the different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, to help me along the way. So I appreciate all of the gentlemen on the panel today, and that's all I got.
Hey man, I know I'm not the only one who believes this, man. We really appreciate you. We all value you. We value the opportunity. We value the, you been on this show, um, is validation for me and probably some other people that we're on our purpose. Some of the people up here, our purpose and part of our purpose is to give back to the next generation, to help them so they don't make some of the same mistakes that we made. What Coach said, absolutely. I'm definitely on board with that. I know your father and mother personally. And um, I do agree with that. Having this conversation with Big Mike, um, and all of those things like that is going to be great. Um, but I do want to say another thing is, um, for any man, I think this is a good video for anybody to go back and watch and look. There was a comment made in the chat about how this was a good video and how they're going to show it to other people. But there was a lot of information shared here, and just in general. And that was focused on trying to help you get to your next level. So I would encourage you to go back at sometimes, because you're not going to remember everything. I'm just going to be real with you. And there are going to be some things you're going to forget. There are going to be some talking points. And when you go back through it and you watch this video, take notes. You're like, oh, I like what Coach said. Oh, I didn't like what Uncle Junior said. That's fine. You know what I mean? Eat the fish and spit out the bones at the end of the day. Um, but we're done, man. Thank you to all the panel members here today. I appreciate all you guys coming on. Love you guys, man. Like this show honestly would not be possible if it wasn't for the audience, the people in the chat, and all of you gentlemen up here on the show. So, like I said, I really appreciate you. And until next week, we're gonna see y'all, and we are out.